Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing the new Benighted album titled Obscene Repressed. So we've listened to this album constantly throughout the entire week. Vile, what do you think?
I did listen to this album constantly throughout the week, and I'm going to start off negatively here. And I'm gonna say that I got pretty bored of it. Our first impressions of this album were pretty strong. We listened to it and we're like, whoa, this goes hard, it's brutal. There's all this cool stuff on the drums, the vocals, blah, 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 blah. But by like Monday, maybe Tuesday, I was like over it. And I think there's a couple reasons as to why this all happened. Number one, this is a pretty short album. Not out of the normal, but it's about half an hour long, which is typical for this type of music. So that's fine, forgivable. But it is a lot harder to digest that much when it's that short. You listen to it more often. You hear a lot of songs more often because it's so short. The other thing is, we just came off listening to Testament for a week, right? So we have Testament on the brain, and that's a completely different style, genre, taste, flavor of music. When we listen to this, I think our perception was a little bit off, which made this sound way more brutal than it really is, way more technical than it really was, way more just, things were just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Way more than they normally really were. But the more I listened to this, the more I found that it was just pretty average as far as this type of music goes. There's a couple things that I noticed, on the first impressions, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, that's really cool. But the more I listened to it, I'm like, that really isn't that cool at all. Like, I'll give you an example. We talked about the vocalist doing all of his breeze and his blaz and all that kind of cool stuff. And at the end of a couple songs, Scarecrow being one of them and Mom, I Love You the Wrong Way being another one, he does these snarls at the end. But after listening to it, I realized what he's literally doing is just going like he's just doing a snore noise.
Yeah. At the end of Scarecrow, yes. But at the end of Mom, I Love You the Wrong Way, the scream that he does at the end just sounds like a fucking animal. I think that's sick.
Yeah,
the Scarecrow, I can understand. It does sound like he's snoring.
His vocals are great, but it didn't seem as... I wasn't as impressed by it listening to it throughout the week. And I think it's because there was like this instant... I don't know what to call it, because we were listening to Testament all week the week before. I don't know, you feel that or what?
Well, I mean, of course, when you're listening to one genre for an entire week and then you completely flip it on its head,
your perception's a little off.
Your perception's certainly off. Like that, happens a lot. But for me, this album, I was a little bit back and forth on it.
Yeah.
Throughout the week, because I did kind of start to feel that it was a little bit repetitive, because I remember there was a point I sat down one day and I literally just chose a bunch of random songs and jumped about a minute in and the same thing was happening. A crazy blast beat with whatever, like shredding, like it was like the same thing, and I'm just like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But then, one thing about this album that was, really keeping it fresh for me is how almost every single song has something about it that gives it a personality. And I feel like there's a lot of depth to this album as well. In regards to technicality, I actually disagree with you because I feel like there are a lot of really small things in this album that really spurred my mind musically. One super small thing, and I honestly loved how this was such a small thing that kind of opened my mind, is the beginning of Implore the Negative. The drummer plays the drum like riff, like the beginning of it. And it sounds like it's in duple meter if you're not hearing a triple meter. And then, when he starts like hitting the drum rim, it matches up. But he's not playing in duple meter. The reason it sounds like duple meter is because on one of the lower tom hits, he's playing a flam, which sounds like he's playing two notes. And it's just such a small, specific thing. But the fact that I literally listened to that intro just over and over and over and over, just to be like, okay, that's what's happening. That's why it's like giving that illusion. And it's like, that's so deep. And it's just for the intro of the song, which, by the way, Implore the Negative is still my favorite song in the album. That song is disgusting, and I think it's probably one of the most unique, and I would say a big part of that is Jamie Johnson's feature.
Obviously,
which is sick.
Yeah.
That song is still nasty, all this time afterwards. But, you know, a song like, let's say, Muzzle has the really cool swing part in the middle, which was honestly cool and fresh. Or a song...
That was another thing that got old to me, though, because it's the only cool and fresh thing, really, that's on the album. Like, the rest of the album is very, like, linear as far as its sound goes, and then there's that one section for a couple bars that changes things up. It just seemed like not enough.
But even then, there's still like small moments, like an undivided dismemberment. There's a point where the vocalist is like speaking in his growling voice, and I thought that was really cool. You don't really see that much else on the album. Or in Bound to Facial Plague, you get a lot more feature on the bass, which you don't really get much else on like other spots of the album. Like I think every song really has something about it that kind of gives it a little bit of personality. But it also kind of, at times, feels like the same things happening over and over. It's just they're sprinkling a lot of interesting stuff in it. So, like, the album, I think is still good, but it can have that issue. I think it's a little bit of an acquired taste, and I think that if you can get over that hurdle, then the album is pretty solid.
Yeah, you know, I don't hate it either. I'm being pretty negative, which I tend to do sometimes, but I just like to be critical with my reviews. I did like the music. Like, I enjoyed the album. It's not that it's bad. There was a few songs that really spoke out to me and were like, you know, I was like, this is a jam. Like, I'm gonna add this to my playlist, no problem. Like, Nails is a sick song.
Nails is cool.
The Starving Beast was my favorite song on the First Impressions. Not sure if it still is right now, but it's still a top song. Smoke Through the Skull's really good. Implore the Negative, I don't have the same feelings as you. It's a great song. I think it's a good single, and it is a single. Because, you know, you got Jamie Josta on there, and it's probably the most accessible song on the album, if you want to call any song accessible. But there are songs and there are moments that I was like, yeah, this goes hard, right? Like, you know, I crapped on the vocals a little bit, but it's not that they're bad vocals. It's just that it didn't have the wow factor that had at the beginning of the week when we first did our first impressions. It just didn't last. That wow factor went away pretty fast, and I thought, you know what, these are pretty standard vocals. I think I just had this weird first impression. My perception was off, but he is a good vocalist. He's got a good range. He's got some cool different styles of growls and things like that. So there's a lot of good things to say about it. The guitar player is really good. The drumming is good. The bass, as you mentioned, has got some highlights. There are good things to say about it.
I do think in regards to the vocals that I love how just nasty it sounds and how just like he sounds like a animal.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of CJ McLeary's performance on the Lorna Shore album, Immortal, whereas, you know, there's a lot of different voices and it just sounds totally demonic. And I really like that. Now, do I feel that, you know, is this level of performance the exact same as that one? No.
Nah, I wouldn't say so.
But I would say there is a comparison with the fact that it really does sound like a monster is singing.
Yeah, because you get some bands, I don't want to name bands because really off the top of my head I can't think of any, but there's some bands, they have a harsh vocal and they're very limited in their range. Like they'll usually have like a high harsh and a low harsh, like a growl and a scream basically, and that's fine. But bands like this, you can tell there's more depth there. You can tell that they play around with their voice and like to do different things. So yeah, we appreciate stuff like that.
Exactly. And one thing just to touch upon, even though it's not exactly relevant to how we scored the album, but they did cover Get This by Slipknot, which I thought was really cool because I think that's an underrated song. And the cover is really cool and original. I think it's a cool take on the song. It's nasty. It makes you want to go and smash things.
Yeah, it's worth checking out if you guys listen to this album. It is on the deluxe edition of the album, which there's also another bonus song on there as well. We don't include that stuff in the review, but just for you guys that might be interested, it is there. So yeah, I don't know, we want to get to ratings?
I guess we'll rate it. What do you give this album?
Well, it's not worthy of a toe tag for me, simply on the fact that I got a little bit bored of it. So the fatigue factor, it failed on that front. It does have interesting things going for it. It is a pretty solid album from beginning to end. So I can't really give it a bad score, but I think this is worth, I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
All right. I think this is a seriously solid album and there's a lot of depth to it, but I feel like there might be some accessibility issues, and I feel like for some people, especially in your case, that it will stale. So it's kind of hit and miss in that regard, but I still think there's a lot happening in this album that is really notable, so I'm gonna give it a 7, because it's seriously a solid album, but it does kind of suffer from a few fundamental issues that prevent it from getting a toe tag.
Well said.
So a 6.5 from Vile and a 7 from me. Still a pretty solid album, guys. Make sure you go check it out. And remember to like the video if you like it. Comment, tell us in the comments below how you feel about this album after 1 week after its release. It is pretty rad. That was a damn good cover, get this. Anyway, guys, remember to subscribe if you guys are new to the channel and check out our Spotify playlist in the description below. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And keep those horns up.